G'day everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Joey Wiggle Experience. It's great to have you here with us today, and joining me as usual is my co-host Moses Yakub. Welcome, Moses.
Thank you, Joe, and hi everyone.
It's great to have you back, and also as a new co-host, as a matter of fact, I think it might have been a bit of confusion a few weeks before because I had you on as a guest. I think it's safe to say that I've brought you on now as a more regular co-host, especially in these kind of situations. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And what a guest we have today. Many of you may not know the name, but you will definitely remember the voices. He's done thousands of voices in this industry for years, for decades. He has done Blinky Bill. He has done Flipper and Lopaka. He has been the narrator of the George and the Jungle films and many, many more. He is without a doubt Australia's man of 1,000 voices. Please welcome to the podcast the magnificent Keith Scott. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here, and hello to all the viewers out there. And you probably don't know who this old guy is, but you'll know these voices when we talk.
Without a doubt, there's so many to go from. There's just so many, and I think it's safe to say that for you as a voice actor, obviously you were inspired and taught by some of the greatest in this industry that has ever existed: Mel Blanc, June Foray, William and Hanna-Barbera. And in fact, you mentioned, I think you might have mentioned this on a previous podcast. I don't remember. I think it might have been the Jake's Happy Nostalgia show, which was that one, because I had no idea. Can I just say, Keith, I had no idea that you did that podcast up until I think maybe today.
All right. I think I was sometime like mid last year, I think.
It was very interesting. And I think you mentioned you happen to have met Hanna-Barbera themselves, or at least William Hanna, yes, during your early years. But how did you, for you personally, because obviously there's so much to go through, what was your youth like? You know, when did you start doing voices, and how did you decide that you wanted to become a voice actor?
Well, it was, the same as everyone, I guess, except because I'm older and have been doing this for like, I guess, half a century, believe it or not. I started when we just had black and white television, which was 4 channels only. There was no internet, of course, back in the early 60s. This is
beautiful time.
I would have been about 6 years of age, and TV was only fairly new to this country, and I just fell in love with American cartoons as that 6-year-old kid, and I was just one of these people who was drawn to that sort of creativity, like a moth's drawn to a flame. I was useless at sport, so I'm definitely of the nerd fraternity. But I remember the really early Hanna-Barbera cartoons were like the Huckleberry Hound show with Doss Butler doing the voices. And even though my voice hadn't changed, I was able to do these voices. And I just discovered that I had this ability. And so the first one I did was, I don't know if you've ever seen these cartoons, but there was one called Pixie and Dixie and this cat called Mr. Jinx. And that was one of Doss Butler's voices. And that was the first one I ever imitated. He'd say things like, I'm going to clobber these miserable nieces to pieces, And so that well, I think the most famous voice in the long term from that series was Yogi Bear. Have you old enough to know Yogi Bear?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much a generational thing. Yeah.
Very much so, but it was. I guess they're all on YouTube anyway these days. What was old is now new again to a lot of people. So I was also doing Yogi Bear, Mr. Ranger, sir, and those characters. And of course, when I got out of high school, about a year after, in early 72, I found out that Hanna-Barbera had just opened an overseas branch here in Sydney to do animation of, they had so many series on, and they were doing runaway animation in various foreign countries. And because we were an English language country, it was easy for them to set up here. So I took some letters that I had from some of the chief voice actors who did all the early stuff for Hanna-Barbera, and I took them in to show William Hanna that I was a genuine, person, not just some nut off the street. And he offered me, because I think I was only like 18, he offered me a job around the animation studio just to see what, if I'd like to do that, promising me that when they needed some local voice work, he'd let me have an audition or a go at it. And that's exactly what happened. I started 2 days later working at Hanna-Barbera and meeting this legendary old executive who, he had also been in the business 50 years at that stage himself. So this was one of the most distinguished people in animation. It was almost like meeting Walt Disney, And, so a few months down the track, he actually had a voiceover job for me, and I was, again, still 18. And that's when the main thing that he did was he gave me a letter of recommendation. And with his signature, it got me an agent straight away. And if I look back now, and to be perfectly honest with you, I could do a lot of things, but I don't think I was really ready. I needed a few more years of honing it and becoming a bit more. But then again, on the other hand, being thrown in that deep, that early in my life really made me very much more able to study and do what I do with a great deal of discipline, So I just kept practicing and doing all these impersonations of voices. Started doing stand-up comedy every weekend in clubs as a variety entertainer, doing impressions on stage. And so I had to switch not only from cartoon characters, but because I was working to an older audience, I had to do impersonations of politicians and movie stars and all of this.
Oh, yeah.
Fun.
You very quickly learn to develop a wide range in this, but like you said, I really had throughout my high school years, I'd been so taken with the idea of doing this that I had written to all those legends who are long gone now, like Mel Blanc, the voice of all the Warner Brothers characters, like Bugs Bunny and all this.
Pretty much did everything, honestly. There's so much to describe him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think Mel Blanc was even 10 years before people like Doss Butler. He kind of, in one sense, he kind of invented the whole profession, because.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I think he mastered it. It's so, because I remember watching a documentary. I don't know if it was a documentary, it might have been a TV interview, and he was doing the voices. And all I can think of was, how on earth could one person come up with all of that much range?
Right.
Out of and he would go through he would go through his gruff talk, and he would do like 10,000 characters with that. And it's crazy to think that we as humans have that ability we just don't even know it. And it's like, that's really interesting you saying this, because obviously Hanna-Barbera, especially during that time, would have been like just the biggest thing in the world when it comes to children's entertainment, morning cartoons. Like, they would have had everything, and that must have been such a moment as well.
Well, I never, it's one of those old childhood dream come true scenarios, and by the time I did start working for him, they were the world's leading makers of animation for television. Now the ones before that, with Mel Blanc and them when they were young, there was no television, of course. It was just radio in the household with drama comedy, and those guys would work on all of those sort of radio shows doing all these crazy characters, and the only outside work they would get would be in theatrical animation, because until TV came along, people saw their cartoons at theaters every week. There was a new cartoon along with the feature film and all of that, and so most of those classic old ones, the ones we call the classic era, were originally made for theaters only. So the whole thing has just been also a history of the march of technology.
I think it's fascinating too, because it's like when it comes to voice acting as well, because so many people try to you'll see those people trying to impersonate a certain character,
right.
And it can be really difficult, because it's like, unless you've studied certain mannerisms, and because every character, everyone, because most of these characters are based off real people. And like you mentioned, you would base some of your voices off the politicians in the country,
sure.
especially during that time, because obviously they would have just been caricatures of themselves.
Some of them actually are in real life. I mean, Trump is much larger than life compared to,
he's like a human cartoon. It's like you just don't believe what he's doing is real, and it's like he's very easy to interpret.
Yeah, sorry to cut in. He's basically like a stand-up comedian on a world stage.
Just, yeah, exactly.
That's out of context, that's what it looks like. Yeah. If you take away all the other stuff, it really feels like that.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, he will end up in animation as a.
Oh, he already has. He already has.
Yeah, that's true.
He already has, yeah.
as Donald Trump, I guess. Yeah, that's right. But in the old days, when all the cartoon characters were animals, they would have done him as a bear or some villain.
It's crazy because it's like it's so interesting because I thought cartoon characters when I was a kid, they were just magical creatures that were invented out of. I just thought they were magnificent. But then when you get older, you start to realize, oh no, they do kind of remind you of this person and this person and this person. It's like they can't, like I said, they're like fictional versions of the real life person.
Well, that's right. Yeah, very much so. And with Doris Butler particularly based most of his TV ones, those early ones I was talking about, on people who were in entertainment at the time. But what he did was he would take that voice and do an imitation, but he'd exaggerate it on purpose so that it was much more broad than the original person. But occasionally, if the original one was also very over the top, you didn't have to exaggerate it much because it was like just a zany voice, But all of those ones that he did were based on movie or TV people of that era. And if you're a real young movie buff these days, with YouTube and simply Googling everything, you can quickly learn or do a mix and match and have the character and then see what he did with those characters to make them exaggerated.
Yeah, I think too. Like, for you personally, when you, because obviously these are all these are all impressions. Most of them are impressions of people who have existed on TV and film and who's in power and politician. But when you have to come up with a character on your own, like let's say, you're trying to come up with your own version for a character and you don't want it to sound like anything that's been done before. What's the kind of mentality, the kind of training, the kind of preparation you would do in order to come up with a new voice for a character that hasn't been done before?
Well, a lot of it is really character acting because, excuse me, you tend to. A lot of it depends on the words and the script, and if it's a good character and it's well written, half the job is done for you because then you can just pick out of the air and use your mental computer. And it's a lot of times they used to say, even in a 30-second animated commercial, they'd say, "Oh, this is like a zany professor type." And then you'd immediately think of some guy with frizzy hair who's a real eccentric old university lecturer. And then you'd either start with a little voice like that, who's somebody who's very, very precise and thinks very quickly and is kind of lecturing everybody. And then they'd say, "Oh yeah, that's as eccentric as we want, but we want him with a German accent." So then you start to change it, and you'd make this sort of Middle European sort of accent, And then.
Sorry, I was trying so hard not to laugh because I wanted you to do the voice so clearly. But yeah, I get what you mean. It's yeah, I think honestly, as soon as you started, I pictured just a guy with very like you said, very frizzy hair, like a professor.
Yeah, well, there used to be a guy who people like me used to get to imitate a lot, who's long gone now. But when we were kids, he was on TV, a real scientist and a real eccentric. He was Professor Julius Sumner Miller, and he was an American guy who was known around the world for about 15 years. He was real eccentric, and he'd do these little scientific demonstrations, and he would talk in a croaky old voice like this, and he would always ask a question of the viewer and say, "This egg can be squeezed into this bottle. Why is it so?" And of course, he ended up being used as a cartoon voice on commercials anyway, This is in the days, of course, long before the internet. So people didn't think, "Oh, I'm going to sue you for stealing my voice." You got to be a little more careful these days.
Oh yeah, like because especially with I think the saddest thing is that most of it can just be taken away now as easily as it, like, because with the rise of AI as well, it can be a really dangerous world for voice acting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You lose that kind of genuine human response, and when it's done by a computer and not done by a person, it just doesn't sound as like it doesn't sound as amazing as it should.
No, I was almost fooled a couple of times when I saw some serious versions of mimicking, where they suddenly, have a picture of, let's say Anthony Albanese or somebody like that, and then they'd have him saying something that he didn't actually say himself, but then every so often you could tell it was just a little bit off. There'd be some American pronunciation on some word, and you realize, wait a minute, this is AI, and it's generated. So I started calling it artificial plagiarism, because,
yeah.
because really the thing that worries anyone who's an artist of any type, singing or whatever, is just the wholesale being able to lift anything that has existed originally, created by a human, and then use it for profit in a bad way. But most of it's probably more just early days of AI where people are just doing it mischievously. I mean, I know there's a whole world out there that doesn't include all the stuff we're talking about. I mean, AI is going to be, used for...
It's inevitable. Obviously, it's inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that part, yeah.
And I think as well, Keith, like, obviously there will come a point where, like, you need permission if you want to, because there was this thing where James Earl Jones, before he passed away, he gave permission for his voice to be used as Darth Vader after he died through AI. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, will we get to the point where you need the permission from the artist so then you can use them? Because then if you use it without the permission, it's like, obviously everyone has different taste. And also, if you do use it, should there be a monetization to it as well? Because obviously you shouldn't, it's like no one should be using AI and then making revenue from whatever they're doing. Well, that's the person's permission.
But even like that, if I think back way before AI came along, the same thing happened to people like me, because occasionally if I did a very realistic impersonation, there would be a bit of a thing about, oh, are we allowed to do this? If it was me doing a Darth Vader in a local commercial or something,
where are those transmissions that you intercepted? What have you done with those plans?
It sounds like a mix between Squidward and Darth Vader, not gonna lie.
I was gonna say it sounded a little bit like Squidward too.
Without that treatment that they put on his voice,
Oh, we're gonna have a great episode today.
I agree.
Wow. Okay.
And I also used to do a lot of Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan from the earliest Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we get an F? Can we get an F for Alec Guinness, guys?
Yes, it was. I know your father years and years ago. There, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I haven't heard that for a long, long time, young Luke.
It's so fascinating. Like, I think just the art of voice acting, I just don't know if it's as appreciated as it as much as it should be. I don't know how I should describe it. I just think it's such a unique form of art where someone is impersonating another person and they can do it by ear. Like, there's some people who are insanely talented. I saw this video on Instagram. I can't remember what his name was, but it was back in the 70s. And this man, like, if you think impersonating characters is amazing, this guy can impersonate objects around him, like the fire sirens, the bell, the door. And it's like, humans, I just can't believe we as humans can be capable at something like that. And it's so unique. And it's so, like, it's so underappreciated. Like, the fact that people have that ability to do that.
Right. Well, and I mean, a lot of it is because the people who do it are attracted to sounds anyway. It's like if you're fascinated by something as a kid, you pretty much carry it throughout your life. And it's like one of those all encompassing interests that just never loses a fascination. So even now, when I go into a recording studio, it's just as exciting for me as it was when I was very young. And you never know what you're going to be asked for, because if you're known as somebody who can mimic stuff, you're going to be asked to do those crazy sound effects too. I remember one time a guy wanted me to do a cat fight. It was like that sound that you hear in the dark of cats outside your house, and it was like I had to really think quick and realize that a cat, when they really squall, sounds a bit like Donald Duck, and so they start out with,
Whoa! You got me excited for a moment. That's a good impression of Donald Duck. I'll give you that.
I'll say this though, like I've been trying to do the exact same thing. I thought I might show off a bit as well. I was always so fascinated about how they did the Donald Duck voice. And right. It's just, obviously it's like this pressure thing where it's like, and then you end up trying to make it like more exaggerated, like, it's like, obviously mine's not, it's like really exaggerated air coming from the side of your mouth. I've been trying to work on it, and it's like, it's such a technique.
Yeah, it is.
You can pull it off.
I mean, I used to do a bit where I do Donald Duck sneezing, because that was just like where you put that little air pocket in your mouth and
yeah,
and like,
I'm trying to do that voice, but I don't know how. I really want to. I don't know how I'm going to do that though. Like, how do you even do that? Your cheek.
It's hard to explain though. You'd have to. The original guy who did it it's like a lost art. Even if I've heard of him. I've seen a documentary. Yeah, that's right.
He mastered it, like, honestly, far out.
Well, in those days, even before radio, they used to have what they used to call barnyard mimics, and that was people who grew up on the land in those days and could imitate everyone from ducks and goats and pigs and all of that to cows or whatever. But the ones who made it in showbiz also had a comic gift, so they were able to use those sounds that they could do and talk like English language with those sounds, or just be funny with it rather than just accurate.
Yeah, like Mel Blanc, like that's probably how he would have started as well. Like he would have been in the field of doing impressions of animals, and then they would have been like, can you make them speak with words? And it's like, that's probably where we get Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, like all the exaggerated duck animal noises.
Well,
language, yeah.
He did the Daffy one because of the duck's bill, and thinking it was going to make that spitting sound, But then he also used that for Sylvester, and he was such a good actor that Daffy and Sylvester have the same voice, but really they just seem totally different because they're different characters. The Daffy Duck's got the crazy ego, and Sylvester's just a maniac who's his own worst enemy, who always hurts himself every 2 seconds trying to get the bird. So.
Yeah.
But
I can't even do the voice. That's how great he was too. He
just
had that ability. It's
yeah, it was like from Succotash.
Oh my God.
How's a pussycat?
That's actually really good. I'll give
That's
you that.
a really good impression. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's a great form of art. It's so, like I said, I just don't think it's as appreciated as it should have been today, as it probably would have. Like back then, it probably would have been amazing, but now, it's just so common. I think there's some people out there who are just really unique, and the fact that they can do thousands of voices themselves gives me hope.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think there is just as many young people today wanting to get into it who've got that ear for it as I was a kid. And of course, the opportunities are so much bigger now because of the the tools and things that people have got now, and so many people are now self-creators rather than hoping to be booked by somebody creative.
Yeah. And you would hope, and you know what? You would hope that more young people get into voice acting. That way it prevents more of this terrible AI like you just encourage more young people to get into voice acting. Then you've all that sorted. You don't have to worry about fake technology to do that for you.
Well, that's right. And I've also heard some bad examples of where they try to use AI to recreate a particular comedian, and it just doesn't work. It's just missing something. And like they'll have somebody try to do. Oh, who's a good example of a famous, like somebody like Billy Connolly, with that Scottish accent. But when you read the script of what they've written, trying to recreate a Billy Connolly routine, it just looks phony,
And then the nerve to try and recreate that too, like the nerve.
Yeah, Billy Connolly is his own person, like
totally. Yeah. You're right. He's just a pure original.
Yeah, we need more of that. We just need more of pure originals. I mean, that's how we always. That's how we have the best of That's how we have all these different, diverse personalities, and why they always stand out is because they're always. Obviously everyone is inspired by something, but you obviously have to stand out on your own. And obviously I think with you, Keith, you've managed to stand out on your own as well, not just become another mimic of all these other voice actors. Like, you happen to have done your own. So, and that's where finally Yoram Gross comes into the story, where you started voice acting for many of his projects. The first being, I would presume, Dot and the Kangaroo.
No, I think he'd done Dot and the Kangaroo about 3 or 4 years before he ever met me, but that was still the most famous one because it was the one that established that whole thing of an Australian animation thing with real photographed backgrounds. He was unique using that approach. But I think he was up to like his 4th feature film when my agent was contacted by him, and he'd heard about me through the traps, I guess, doing cartoon commercials. And I came in and auditioned for, I think it was called Dot and Keto, Keeto, which was like a nickname for a little mosquito character. But I based that a lot on the MGM character Droopy, that little basset hound dog that you see.
Hello, folks. That sort of hello, all you happy taxpayers.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
With some of the characters he wanted, he'd mention a thing like that, or a movie actor or somebody, and we just do it mostly in this country with an Australian version of that character. So when I did, what was it? Who was the one? I guess it was Blinky Bill. Yeah, that series. There was this little, was it a platypus character called Flap?
Oh, so we're going. Oh my! We have a bunch of photos of the characters in the show because I think that's what you're best remembered for to this day. The Blinky Bill characters.
2 generations now who grew up watching all the Yoram Gross series, like Tabaluga and all of them, and it's like I feel like I've been Australia's babysitter now for 2 generations.
I want to fast forward a little bit, if that's okay, Joey.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
So in around 2000 or 1999, I think it was 2000. I think.
Right.
You were doing a thing for Thomas and the Magic Railroad when you were originally cast as Diesel 10.
That's right. Yes.
Would you want to maybe talk to us a bit of your experience on what that was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I just finished Rocky and Bullwinkle. Like all of these things, you record it a year before it's ever made. So it was actually in '99. I just finished the filming of Rocky and Bullwinkle, where I was the narrator and Bullwinkle Moose, and I was still in Hollywood before I flew back to Australia. And the casting people gave me the name of Britt Allcroft, who is the lady. She's just passed away recently, but she was
rest in peace, Britt.
Yeah, she was producing the movie version of the Thomas the Tank Engine TV, series, and they wanted a new voice for Diesel, and because it was going to be a big budget movie production, they wanted it to be really scary and evil. So I kind of did a voice that was
very much like one of those. It was a little bit based on the Big Bad Wolf from Three Little Pigs. Yes,
and apparently, I recorded the whole thing along with some of the actors from England who, doing their famous bits. And then they called my agent in. I was back home in Sydney. And said, "Oh, we're going to have to replace Keith because at the previews, all the little kids were scared of him.
Oh,
What?
Yeah.
Really?
That was the executives' feeling that I was going to be too scary. That's really what it was. I think they said there was some kids at the preview, but you never know to believe these stories 100%. But and then I found out, like years go by, and they also replaced 3 other actors on that. So the final cut has different people than the ones I stood in the studio with. They flew me to Toronto to do that. They were recording it in Canada.
Oh, that's crazy. So
But
after that, so eventually you were replaced as the voice actor. By the way, that's crazy for a Thomas the Tank Engine film. I mean, dang it. And then the movie came out, and let's just say, maybe if you were a little kid, that movie's iconic. For anyone else, I think it's a little bit of a controversial story because obviously it got panned. And I think Britt ended up leaving I'm not too sure. I'm not going to speculate because I don't know the whole story. I think she might have stepped down at one point. And I think it was because they made too many cuts as well, from what I read.
that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
But I do know that I just heard that the people who really have been digging at this, the true fans, have now got a director's cut, and apparently they've restored all of my dialogue in one version of it. So
yeah.
Well, actually, Joseph Marshall, who's been on social media for a while, he's been known as an archivist, and he's been bringing back a lot of Australian nostalgic content. He's currently in the middle of restoring the original cut with a few other people, and it's like, it's really big. Like, we cannot wait, and hopefully we'll get to see your original performance in its true form, and maybe it'll help clear up, why, will it look better? Will it not look better because of all the cuts? We have no idea. But I think looking at the original version, what it should have been, I think is going to help a lot. And I think we would be very excited. We can't wait to see your original version as well.
good on you.
Yeah. I mean, if it isn't scary, then I'll just be like really surprised why. I mean, I think the one they got anyway was scary.
Yeah, Good. I must admit, I had a bit of a thing about watching the replacement, thinking, nah, I think I'll pass on that. But I was more disappointed than anything else, But that sort of thing happens in this business all the time. People get replaced, and you don't hear about it till years later. It's quite common, especially when people are panicking about money and thinking, oh, this will flop at the box office or whatever the reason is. But and I'd already been through that with Rocky and Bullwinkle, even though I love doing that movie. That one also tanked at the box office. The only successful movie project I've ever done was George of the Jungle, the first one. That was a big success for the Disney company.
And you were the narrator as well, yeah.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser, yeah. That was based on the old, there was a very short 1967, I think. It was
like a cartoon, yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon version, yeah, George of the Jungle. That was another great voice man of that period called Paul Frees. And he was mostly known for the work he did at Disneyland, like the voice of the Haunted Mansion, some of the exhibits. But he was the original narrator of those cartoons, George of the Jungle. And I just based it on that. It was like a kind of a hammy Orson Welles sort of deep within the mighty jungle in Bombashooty village in deepest
There it is.
There it is, yeah. Oh, a lot of nostalgic tingles.
I thought it was very funny in that movie because they in the old cartoons they recreated where he'd swing on the vine through the jungle, but he'd crash into all the trees. And near the opening of the movie was describing who this guy, George of the Jungle, is. And I say, he is swift, he is strong, he is pure. And then you hear him go, and smash into the tree and fall down unconscious. And he is unconscious.
Yes.
That's so funny the way you did it.
Was that
that's
or was this like in the script? Surely that would have had to been improvised.
Well, it's so long ago, and I think 97. I can't remember. There were some improvisational bits I did, mostly in that bit where the villains suddenly, I'm saying something, this disembodied voice, and one of the villains with a Cockney accent looks up into the sky and says, "And you can shut up too." And then the narrator says, "I will not." We had a bit of fun doing that because I added a couple of bits to it.
That's
No,
incredible.
I won't. I'll say it again, or whatever I said.
That's so funny. I think that's what I like as well. Just the wit. It's really can't top that at all.
Well,
and he's unconscious.
Jay Ward wit from those Jay Ward cartoons. They were the wittiest of them all.
Yeah.
Rocky and Bullwinkle and things like that, because they were deliberately designed to appeal not only to kids on one level, but to the parents who'd be watching it with them would get jokes that the kids wouldn't get till they were grown up.
Yeah. And with the Rocky and Bullwinkle film, because obviously when you were recording the voices, you were recording alongside the legendary June 4/8. Like that must have been something as well.
Well, she was another one that I'd written to as a kid. And I had a lot in those days with snail mail, I had a trail of letters that I've kept in over the years from all these people, that they take the time to write letters to a school kid. This was just amazing to me. And then to actually end up working with one of the heroes that I wrote to was just, again, it's like one of those, I had to pinch myself. Is this really happening?
Yeah, the female Mel Blanc too, by the way.
Oh yeah,
she did. Yeah,
she was like hilarious. All those fractured fairy tales and things that she did. She had all these really bizarre characters, these wicked witches and things like that, and they were just great, So again, she was legendary by the time I worked with her, and it's just one of those generational things.
Yeah,
she was really. Because the guys who did Bullwinkle and Boris and the narrator were all gone by the time I worked with her, and even though I'd known her for 20 years before we worked together, she was saying, "You sound just like Paul Frees or Bill Scott and people like that," and I couldn't believe it. I thought she'd be correcting me, but I practiced those ones diligently for years, never thinking I was going to. I just admired the scripts and the voices so much. I wanted to be really authentic and accurate, but I never thought it would lead to me taking over the voices when the original guys died. So it's one of those strange things that happens.
But it also must be that kind of like you also feel that kind of, especially for anyone who's replacing a voice actor after they've died. I can't even imagine being the voice actors replacing the Mel Blanc characters after he passed, because that would have been such a huge task to step up to.
Very big task.
It's like you just realize, oh my God, now I'm the one stepping up to the role and I have to replace all these characters that he pretty much created.
Well, I know with Mel Blanc's ones that Warner Brothers in America tried to spread the voices out so that no one person would be doing every voice that Mel Blanc did. I think maybe because they were worried, well, of course, a lot of producers worry that they'll start asking for money. That's at the base of all these decisions, I guess. But I was lucky enough in Australia to be the person, for promotional reasons. I was entitled by Warner Brothers to do all of Mel's voices for stage productions up on the Gold Coast, like Warner Brothers Movie World, or local commercials with animation. So I was doing a lot of early ones with Daffy Duck and Sylvester and Foghorn Leghorn. Yes. Yeah.
Foghorn Leghorn. He was the one in the KFC commercials too.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah,
I think I did one as a KFC ad with his voice from memory. I'd have to go and listen, but I was really, and Elmer Fudd and all of these characters,
Oh, that's so cool.
Fudd. Oh,
I'm hunting a wabbit.
There it is.
But,
Oh, it's so fascinating. I mean, if I was just guessing, I would have assumed that you were the voice of all of these characters officially, but the fact that you can impersonate them so masterfully, it's like obviously it comes from hard work and also study and master classes and all that kind of stuff. Did you happen to take part in any of those kind of things growing up too? Because obviously when you're getting into voice acting, you'd have to like study in some aspects as well.
well, no, I guess the only way you can do it in those days was there were no schools for it. There was, of course, there was a long time tradition of acting schools and dance schools and all of that, but not for the specialized art of this thing. So really, you just had to be so dedicated to it and authentic that when you knew that you were doing it right. Basically, when June Foray said what she said to me, or Doris Butler said, I sent him a tape of her. In the old days, it was just on audio tape, just me doing Yogi Bear on a locally Australian-made commercial, and he said, "God, you're the closest to come to old Doris Butler that I've ever heard." And those moments are what you never forget, because you can only try as hard as you can, and a lot of it's. I did have a pretty good ear to listen and judge myself with headphones on, and say, no, that's the wrong pitch, or it's too husky, or it's too low, or it's too high, whatever it is. Very technical, probably pretty boring, but it was all of those little details that make the difference, to where somebody will have their socks knocked off by saying, God, that sounded just like so and so. And I used to study also the impersonators who would do stand-up on old TV shows, and you'd see them on these old variety shows.
Yeah.
Rich Little and people like that. And they influenced me a lot when I was very young, because they were very, accurate. And occasionally you'd hear some bad impressions, and sort of like hearing an off-key singer. It sort of has a bad effect on your ear or something, and so why does this person think they're any good? So I never wanted to fall into that category and have people say, oh, that's terrible, so I was pretty self-critical.
Yeah, that does happen in certain parts of the entertainment industry, but eventually it's like what we call a learning process. We learn along the way.
It really is. That's correct. And if you stay interested and you're genuine, I think everyone improves, and it's like certain people, if you think of Frank Sinatra or some legend like that, his voice was so much richer as he got older,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And that's what made him more popular as well, especially with newer generations.
He had his own distinctive style that really,
like you were saying with Billy Connolly, people like Sinatra were self-made legends because they were unique. I mean, he really had very much a New Jersey accent when he was talking from where he grew up. And you can even hear it in his singing. But, it was just one of those golden voices that, same as Elvis, same as all of the ones who I guess are in the top pantheon of It's almost like they were so unique that you think sometimes they came from another planet.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, it especially with the voice actors too, because it's like when the first time they created those voices, you would have been convinced what happened, like especially with Clarence Nash, who voiced Donald Duck. It's like, what planet did he come from to create the iconic Duck voice? It's just and even Walt Disney himself, because he created the Mickey voice himself. It was literally just his high pitched voice.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. And he also had a big appreciation for talents like Clarence Nash or Pinto Colvig, who was goofy. All these guys were like just as sound came to the movie industry after the silent years, late 20s, early 30s period, it was like these guys, Pinto, Colvig, and Mel Blanc, were inventing this brand new industry of voice acting, because up until it had never been needed, you know.
Yeah,
That's it. I mean, I feel like they were really the masters of like Mel Blanc. Obviously, that's why he's remembered as one of the greatest of all time, because he not only did he perfect it, but he in some ways started, like you said, a new era of voice acting.
Yes, a benchmark. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
exactly.
And really, ever since then, people have been trying to match that. He had a furious level of energy in his performances too, that a lot of the others didn't have.
Yeah,
just that zany quality, and he could yell better than other actors.
yeah.
You know,
And he do it into his old age as well. Like even in because one of his last performances was in How to Frame Roger Rabbit, and he still had it into his 80s. It's like there's something so unique about it, and it's just it's an unappreciated talent, and I just wish that and I hope more young people will get inspired by that so they can get into voice acting as well.
Yeah, and because the only thing that I've noticed there's been a trend. I mean, a lot of things go in cycles, but since this century, a lot of the characters are now human rather than crazy animals, and they marketed a lot of particular cartoons much more to a very, very young demographic, and therefore the humor is fairly gentle and doesn't have that crazy energy. I'm thinking of things like Dora the Explorer, things like that. So that the acting is pretty bland, only because the characters, they're little children, so there's nothing interesting. Yeah. They haven't lived long enough to be nutcases or goofballs or villains.
And I have to say, as someone who used to watch these shows as a kid, you watch it now as an adult and you realize, it really is not that interesting. I mean, it is just the same formula every week, and there's nothing unique about it. I think what made the Looney Tunes shows and cartoons stand out, there was one, I'm trying to remember the name for it, but it was an old Tex Avery cartoon from the 50s where he was pretty much describing it's a very, oh my god, it was so dated. It was pretty much describing the ways of living at home, and then it's like it treats the women like they can't drive and stuff, and the mother-in-law, they treat them like crap. It's like, I can't remember the name of it, but it was so dated, but it was so funny as well.
Very much of its time.
And it was very of its time, and it was also very different and unique, and it wasn't bland. It was just very, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, well, and of course, a lot of his stuff was sight gags, but that was called The House of Tomorrow. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the name of it. Yeah, that's it. The House of Tomorrow.
He had a narrator in that called Frank Graham, who was a guy,
and the mother-in-law.
Yeah, and the mother-in-law, and
out of nowhere too.
Yeah, he actually, I think it was the last cartoon he did, because he committed suicide about a year after that job.
Ooh.
Who was this?
The Frank Graham, the guy who narrated that. That was a private thing. Like, he had a love affair that went sour, and he himself in his car, believe it or not. But otherwise, he would have been one of the great narrator voices of the 50s had he lived.
Yeah. It's a shame. There's always such great talent, and they're always gone too soon as well, just as their careers take off.
A lot of them are. Fortunately, with some of the great voice artists that you're talking about, they lived a long life. Like you said, Mel Blanc made it to his early 80s before he passed, and was still working right up to the end.
Yeah, he was still working. Yeah, the Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that's honestly kept his legacy alive too, that film.
Yeah. Well, the only thing about that was that in that film, Joe Alasky substituted doing Yosemite Sam, because he'd smoked so much and he was so old that he had some issues, and he couldn't do the yelling at that late age anymore. He was quite agreeable to having a younger guy who could put the power into that voice, because but his bugs in that still sounded great.
Yeah. Was it I'm not much of an expert on this, but even when he was smoking and knew that his end was near, was it always talked about who would succeed him? Because I think that was something that Clarence Nash planned in advance with I can't remember the Tony something.
Tony and
because he was the
Selma,
one who succeeded for Clarice because he was obviously sick himself. So was that something like that happening with Mel Blanc, or was it more of like, oh no, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, for a long time, he was pushing his own son, Noel Blanc, to do all of his voices.
Oh, right. Generational thing. Yeah.
understandable. I mean, who wouldn't want to do it?
Exactly. Yeah, but Noel finally admitted that he wasn't as good at it as some of the other guys like Jeff Bergman and people like that.
But also the pressure as well. Like I said earlier, the pressure would just be so much. Like, I am now stepping into the role that made millions of people around the world.
Yeah.
Like, just so happy. I'd be stressed out of my mind if that was me.
Well, I've been through that with several, including Bullwinkle, because that was another beloved TV voice. And if you think about it too much, it makes you crazy. So you don't have those thoughts, or you'd be correcting every take you did for the rest of eternity. You know?
Oh God, it's too much. I get it. But yeah, I think you just don't think about it exactly, and you just try to make it. You make it unique, but you also be respectful to the original. I mean, but if you studied long enough, I guess.
Oh yeah, and the fact that I knew all of those guys, and they had me for it must be at least 20 years. They knew me as this world's leading fan of those cartoons, way before I ever took over the voices. So I had their trust as well.
Yeah, I think that's reassuring as well. I think you getting the respect of people who've created these roles and have been in this industry for so long, I think it just feels really heartwarming. It feels very natural. Feels very like you feel like you believe in yourself, like you're gonna do this right because now you've got their trust.
Well, it's sort of like if you get that feeling like this was maybe meant to be, because you got their blessing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Oh, there's so many. So you've been a part of so many iconic roles in your career, particularly in Australian media. But like I mentioned earlier, the one that we remember you best is.
Blinky Bill.
And I don't know how much you remember because I know you mentioned. I don't know. The Blinky Bill franchise is by far the most popular, without a doubt, and you've had so many characters that you voiced, and we've got a list of them on screen. And if you can remember, if you can totally remember, it's totally fine if you don't. But if you could try your best for the fans watching this episode to try and recreate as many of the voices as possible. We got the first one on screen, and I think that's Mr. Koala, Nutty's father.
Yes, and I think with him, I think it was just a sort of a straight Australian character because he wasn't a funny character. He was just always very concerned like that.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it was and I think from the first one, it was very droopy in the first time he appeared.
Oh, he may have been, but I'd have to rewatch it.
Like, my little Nazi. Something like that. Yeah.
The real regulars each week were Wombo the Wombat.
Yeah.
Oh, is that Danny Dingo?
Oh, that's Meatball.
Meatball.
Yes, I think. Yeah.
Oh, from a scratchy little voice like that.
He was the very dim-witted, middle-aged. I mean, the middle sibling of the family. We've all got one. The middle dim-wit one. Yeah. Oh, there's a bunch of other characters. Do we have let's see if we can try and get Flap the platypus on the screen, because obviously that's one of the most popular male characters on the show, and Splodge the kangaroo.
Splodge the kangaroo and Flap the platypus. They were the ones who every episode. They were Blinky's sort of
close mates, yeah.
hung around him like best mates. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. I don't. We were gonna get the photos on the screen. We don't have them, but if you can,
Well,
could you do your best to try and impersonate Flap the platypus? Because he had a lisp like I get it. He was the Australian Donald Duck. I mean Daffy Duck.
Daffy Duck. Yeah, he had that same lisp because they had written it as a platypus bill. He'd have a lisp. They said that, and so I said,
You mean like Daffy Duck? That sort of lisp?
and they said yes, but make it local. Like
So I had to put the Australian accent on it.
and then of course one of the writers was very good, and he wrote sentences that all began with the letter S, and it's like,
Oh, Ruth, Blinky, I simply can't stand this.
That oh my god, the nostalgic is just
It's kicking in.
it's just really kicking in. I'm not gonna lie.
Wombo the Wombat would turn up and say, "What are you kids doing? I've told you before, Blinky." And then Blinky would say, "Don't call me Wombo."
Okay, Wombo.
And now the kangaroo, Splodge the kangaroo was
the kangaroo.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that sounds a very sounds very local and very lazy and
originally John Howard,
the Prime Minister.
because
No, it's a different John Howard, not the.
Oh god, sorry.
no, the John Howard voice, the ex-Prime Minister John Howard had a voice like this, and he was originally going to be, the voice of Splodge, exaggerated. But then there was another guy called Dr. John Hewson, who was a politician, and he also had that sort of voice, but he couldn't pronounce the letter R properly, and so I really exaggerated that, and that's how Splodge got his voice. It was like, "Oh, gee, Blinky, do you really think we should try it?"
That's wow. You know what that reminds me of? That literally reminds me of Henry the Octopus in a way.
Oh,
except it's not as squeaky
right.
as Henry.
Squiggly. It's more.
Oh, that's
it's
right.
It's more, yeah. See, we love voice acting, so we always just like you. We always just learn by ear, and it's like, oh, I can copy that.
Absolutely, you're doing exactly what I did when I was your age, and it's like you're making connections. It's got a bit of that voice, and it's got a bit of this character. But
yeah.
Did you ever see the series he did called Tabaluga about the little dragon character that could fly?
I'm not too sure. How long ago was this?
Oh, these were all in the 90s, same time he was doing Blinky Bill and all those cartoons. But Flipper and Lopaka was another one.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
That one had the villain,
2000s, very
big, large octopus villain that. Well, I just basically did Jack Nicholson as that character.
Years, honey.
Yes.
Yes.
And who else?
Oh, what? Oh, there's the pelican as well from Blinky Bill, the mare.
Yeah,
that's a very, very, very exaggerated voice. Very mare leadery voice.
Based on one of those old-fashioned politicians who's very full of himself. I say, Blinky, what do you think you're doing?
Wow.
And then
that's incredible.
He got excited. I stole that. Yes, where he'd get his words all jumbled in that huge pelican beak. I took that voice from what Mel Blanc used to do because of the they always show you the drawing of the character and say he'd have a voice that's either up here, squeaky, or very bass, like a big fat hippopotamus or whatever it is.
I was going to say it's very. I guess I can kind of connect the Yosemite Sam to Mayor Pelican. Would have just been like, can you make if it was Yosemite Sam as an Aussie? That's literally.
Well, yeah, except because he was a politician and a mayor full of himself. We did add that slightly over-educated sort of Australian, that used to talk with a little bit of the old English Empire in their voice, like that.
Oh
Where-
yes,
whereas-
they always spoke in that kind of manner, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
Very easy to
that
mock.
gravel. Yeah,
Mm.
but really, more Yosemite Sam would be more like, "Oh, get off the line, you long-eared varmint!" You know, like he's got far more of a explosive quality.
Like a bit of an explosive character, aggressive moment. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's just
Yeah.
it's so unique because it's like I think depending on how much you watch TV in these movies, because obviously for us, we were so obsessed. Like, and I guess just watching these cartoons as kids and just watching all these shows up until adulthood, you get an ear of it as well. And I guess that makes sense to why you had an ear for doing voice impressions, because it's like these cartoons were just all over TV, like the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo,
Yeah.
like Yogi Bear, like they're just there all the time and you hear it over and over and over again. And I get it. It's like a muscle memory thing where you repeat a certain mannerism and you repeat it over and over, and it's just you end up doing the voice. It's crazy.
Well, it is, and if you love it, you're also always remembering lines and paying tribute, and you're swapping things that your friends remembered at school the next day, because in those days we didn't have VCRs or DVDs or whatever, so you just had to remember. And you said, you'd hear kids at school when you're only 7 or 8 years of age saying, "Did you see Tweety and Sylvester last night?" Where he put his head through the porthole in the boat and looked in the cage and said, "Hello, breakfast." You know, the lines were memorable even to very young kids in those days, and especially those larger than life characters, like Sam or I see Foghorn Leghorn boy.
There's so many. I think another one of the cartoons, probably underappreciated, but another one that I remember watching so much as a kid, as a little kid, was Old Tom. I don't know why I had to bring that up. I just remember watching that show all the time as a kid, and it makes me so excited to know that you also played that cat. Like, he didn't speak any words, but you could just meow meow.
Most of it was just hundreds of different meows and things that I had to do, and of course I played a lot of the bit part humans, in each episode that would only appear once.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like the villainy kind of like I'm the adult and you are not allowed in here, something like that.
Oh, a lot of that sort of stuff. Yeah. I'd have to see the episodes again. It's been so many years. I remember I did a series called Fairy Tale Police Department, where we made fun of old, fairy tales characters. But no, I think most of the stuff I did on commercials was the tribute stuff. They would use me with the permission of Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers, and Universal, who had Rocky and Bullwinkle. Allow me to do those characters for the Australian and New Zealand and Singapore, those territories.
That's
Wow.
great.
Their permission that I could do those voices, because I guess they trusted that I'd keep them in character, authentic. I did a lot of stuff with the Flintstones. I remember that they used them on commercials for there was a company called Amber Tiles, because I think something to do with the fact that Fred was working in a quarry, so that was they licensed it for about 10 years, and
Wow.
good little animated commercials, but it was a lot of back and forth between Barney Rubble, hey Fred, there's a mammoth cell downtown, Fred.
I don't need a mammoth barn. I got a brontosaurus.
Oh my God, there's so many. My God.
Yeah. Yes,
I
they
mean,
laughed that he did.
I honestly didn't expect you to do the Flintstones as well. And I guess that comes from just watching these shows by ear and repeating them over and over until you get it right.
In fact, when I met William Hanna, the legacy of that was that they were going to do, God, and this must be 1976 or something. These pebbles Fruitsaurus Pebbles. It was some little sweet.
Oh, Pebbles, the cereal?
Yeah, and then the cereal. And they had various different flavors. And while William Hanna was still here in this country for 6 or 7 months, he gave me his blessing that he'd heard me do a Fred and Barney around the studio. And he said, well, if we ever do any animated commercials, you've got the job.
Wow.
Good as his word, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
So, I mean, the main thing about all of this stuff was that for all the years I did it, it was anonymous. Nobody knew it was me in those days. And in one sense, a lot of people who do voices like having anonymity because you don't have to do all the things in showbiz that, you know, use and on camera. What? You have to look all this. You can just be creative and get your jollies doing, you know, funny voices and things, but nobody knows who you are. It's become a little more
frequent, a
profile in public, simply because the internet has opened the whole world up, so that you know, things that used to be hidden are no longer hidden.
But they're very protective now, especially when it comes to child acting as well, because like back then it would have been like if you were voicing a child character, you'd be very popular from that, but they're very careful about it today, like particularly when it comes to shows like Bluey. Like most of literally all of the child actors, nearly all of them, there's some who've come out, all of them have remained anonymous because they're production crew kids, and that makes so much sense. But as long as they're making revenue from, obviously they would be making revenue from voicing the most famous characters in the world. Yes. But obviously and understandably, they're still kids. You want them to have a normal life, and you don't want them being followed around and being featured in the spotlight all the time because they voice some of the most famous characters. And it makes so much sense. Most people, like you mentioned, just enjoy doing these jobs anonymously because then they make the jolly. They get to enjoy their lives as normal. They don't have to worry about all the spotlight stuff. And I think everyone we all dream about having that kind of fame, but then there's the thing I worry about is being too famous. That's kind of something that you don't want, being too famous.
You know, I remember years and years ago, Elvis Presley, I think, was asked, you know, what is it like to be famous? And he said something along the lines of, you know, if you can imagine walking down the street naked, he said that's how you feel half the time. It's very it does your head in.
Yeah, and it can ruin you mentally as well because it just you just don't get to live a normal life like everyone else. You're just at home all the time.
Yes,
but that famous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think he ended up like that, barricaded at home because he just couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't go to a restaurant. Couldn't do this or that. But so it really, if people have a creative thing and they've got a comedy sort of a mind and they do voice impersonations, it's a great field to be in for those very reasons. You know, you don't worry about all that showbiz BS, but you can still have a very fulfilling job doing all this zany stuff, and in some ways it was good when nobody knew who did the voices, even though I've written a book about naming all of the voices from back in the theatrical cartoon era who were uncredited, because in those days they in the shorts, apart from Mel Blanc, after a few years he was able to get a credit on screen. None of the other people were, you know.
Yeah, well, because it's interesting, because in the earlier cartoons, if you watch the old Disney shorts and films up until like maybe the mid-40s and 50s, no one was credited. I think it was the idea that you want these characters to be believable. You want people to believe that they're real. You don't want to know who actually voiced them. I think they did something similar like that it's a pretty sad story in a way, but they did it for the actress who played Snow White. Like, yes. I think the story with her is that that was her only voice acting role, and I think she signed like an NDA where she can't like go for any other roles in her career because they want her to be remembered for that role only. which again is great and iconic for the role of Snow White, but to not be allowed to work in the industry again, it's I don't know. It's
Well, I think
something about that makes me feel uncomfortable.
she wasn't able to act in that voice anymore. I know that. She was a vocalist, a singer, and
Yeah.
got the role. She was one of many who auditioned their singing voice, like because of that, Someday My Prince Will Come, whatever it was. But I think she was still able to sing in stage productions and that in her own natural voice,
Right.
but not play that Snow White character because it was so, I guess, important to Disney as the first ever featured film length animation.
Yeah. And no one was credited either. Like no one got credited in that film.
Voices. In fact, I think it wasn't until about 1949, 20 years after he started doing sound cartoons, that people got credit for some of the voices anyway.
Right, yeah, because I think they got more famous names involved too, like Bing Crosby and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Jungle Book onwards, I think ever since then, the whole other thing opened up, the field of celebrity voices.
Celebrity voices, yeah, that's it, yeah.
And some of them were great if they had comic ability, like Robin Williams in Aladdin, Eddie Murphy in Shrek.
In Shrek and Mulan, yeah.
And Mulan, right? But
Yeah.
Shrek, of course, became
Eddie Murphy.
franchise one because three Shrek films, I think. It was always that kind of thing. You're a mean green fat machine. Together we're going to scare the spit out of anybody.
Is there anything you can't do? My God, Keith.
Like,
that's incredible.
If I asked you to do a Trump impression, would you do it?
Well, I would be delighted to do Donald Trump. I did a routine just the other day. I had to do a party and I did a little bit of stand up, and I had one of those old black and white horror films with Boris Karloff creating a monster, saying, "I've created a monster. It moves. It talks. Look at it. Go ahead, speak, monster." Well, I am the most tremendous monster that has ever lived. I promise I will make Transylvania great again.
Oh my God.
I got that's so good.
Well, let's face it, there won't be another president like him.
Nah, they won't. Yeah,
Nah,
he's not even real. I'm not convinced he's a real person.
I know. It's almost like AI. But he
He's
is
like an
a gift
NPC
to everyone who does voices. He's a gift.
Yeah, when it comes to those voices, absolutely, he's very easy to impersonate and to mock.
Yes. Oh yeah. And the fact that he's got that very husky voice where he came from Queens in New York, so he's got that real drawl. But I used to do when he first started out, even running for president the first time, I tried to sum him up with one joke saying, "I've done a lot of things in my life. I've been a builder. I've been a job producer. Now I'm going into politics because I feel if you have half a mind to go into politics, that's all you'll ever need."
It's so funny. And you know what I just realized? You also mentioned earlier that you've based most of your characters off people in power, like politicians, and that also comes into play when you did the radio show alongside Robin Moore, who you worked with on Blinky Bill. How Green Is My Cactus?
Right. Yeah. Well, that was a satire show, and again that ran for like 30-something years, and again it was anonymous because apart from people in the radio industry, nobody knew who Robin Moore and myself were, except they'd hear Bob Hawke and all of these famous Australian politicians being sent up every day in the news. We got away with murder on that because apparently all the public servants in Canberra used to love it and listen to it.
would have created some enemies without a doubt.
Oh yeah. No, we did. Even American presidents from Reagan onwards, we were doing all of them as well as the local characters.
Oh, they would have been. And like I said, they're all just caricatures of themselves. It's like you could just make, like, I reckon in 50 years' time, surely there's going to be a bunch of characters on TV who are going to be caricatured after Trump and after all the other presidents for sure. I mean, because they're all going to base it off what they say, how they talked, and it's like it's just going to be a new generation of voice acting.
It is. It really is. I mean, now with the media that we've got, you see so much of the politicians all the time because we've got 24 hours TV, 20 days a week newscasts, and the technology now of sharing videos, so that if a politician is in some situation where they commit something and get embarrassed, it's seen around the world within seconds. So
global, yeah.
Where, you know, America, England, Scotland, they'd never heard of Australian politicians. Now we're all part of the world stage instantly. It's just amazing how it's all changed.
Yeah. But American politicians, it's just, that's a different story. I mean, ours is more larrikin kind of.
Yeah, that's right.
Wacky, but theirs are just like corrupt.
Well, that's right. And also, I mean, well, they've had their characters too. I mean, even between Trump and Trump's first and second thing, we had Joe Biden. And I was, again, you know, there was another gift, because it was like, I want to be clear. Let me just...
Yes. I was waiting.
Have him up and say, people always say this to me, man. You know, you're old. Well, I may be old, but I have a great memory. And another thing, I have a great memory.
And he falls asleep straight away.
I just think, honestly, there's got to be a show in like 50 years' time where it's two characters who sound like those two candidates, and it's just like, it's like, I don't know what kind of plot would make the voice acting would just be, oh yeah, it would be so funny because they both don't seem real.
No, that's right. Yeah. Neither of them, and even with the going back to the, well, I think one of the first scandal ones with the new age of technology was Bill Clinton, because of his little problems that he had in the Oval Office.
Little.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he would have the kind of problem where he'd say, whatever I did has just been blown up out of all proportions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you've seen the show, I think it's called The Late Show in Australia.
Yes, that's right.
I think there was this guy, Rob Sitch. He's a bloody comedy legend, in my humble opinion. He did an impression of Bill Clinton as if it was his, presidential thing, and he was like playing that saxophone thing, and it just became a huge, funny sketch thing in Australia.
Yeah.
Yes, I vaguely recall seeing something like that. So it may be what you're talking about, but I'd have to see it again just to make sure.
Trust me, you're going to be laughing out loud when you watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, we've covered a lot. It's incredible. Looking back now, because obviously you yourself, you still work in the voice acting industry, don't you?
I do, except I'm kind of semi-retired. I'm
understandably, yeah, you've done a lot.
But I still do. I still do occasional stand-up thing, and I still do voiceovers for Aldi and a few other products and things.
Aldi? When did you do that? When did you voice over for Aldi? I don't know if I might have heard it on TV before.
Mostly they're little radio ads that
right.
might be product of the week or something. I did one for those Hass avocados where it was just some old father talking to his son about the Hass avocado, and of course some people don't has an avocado or whatever. It was some crazy thing like that. But I just did a lot of those things where they come in and say, this is the type of what we want. One of them, I think, was a chicken thing, and they wrote it as a fairy tale. So I just did, one of those very old storytellers, like an old one, the old thing of the grandfather reading a fairy story to his kids. And one time they had me do Ian McKellen as Gandalf from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. He arrives just in the nick of time.
You shall not pass
Yes.
without buying this product from Aldi.
It's,
And another one they had me do Alan Rickman.
Oh my
Yes,
god!
Alan
Oh
Rickman.
my god! Oh, that so good.
Turn to page 390 of your textbook, young Potter.
these days, you look for character actors like that who've got a voice, because a lot of the way acting has changed over the years. Now there's a lot of voices that are very underplayed. So you get great actors like Matt Damon and that, but you don't really think that they've got a great impersonatable voice, whereas Alan Rickman obviously did, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and they're such great. I don't even know how to continue that on, because it's just I was just blown away when you did that one. That snake.
Yeah.
And again, you should honestly have you been have you kind of owned up to the title of being called the new man of 1,000 voices, or the Australian man of 1,000 voices?
Yeah, well, for years and years I used to get that, but I'd always say, no, it's 998. There's 2 I'm still having trouble with,
Don't worry. If you can try and impersonate me and my co-host Moses, that'd be that will get to 1,000.
If you can impersonate me, I definitely want to hear him do me. I want to hear him how he sounds.
Well, I think you have a resonant voice, but it's up there.
What?
You know what?
Wait, hold up.
The fact that
Do I actually sound like that? Surely.
you've got a higher range than mine. I've got a baritone voice, but
Fair enough.
but no, I think a lot of it is being able to suddenly instantly try somebody is because I've always thought that voices have musicality to them. So you're looking at different notes.
Oh, that's going in my profile. I'm gonna put that in my resume.
Yeah, he's in the acting industry himself.
Yeah, I need to tell you. Yeah, I'm also looking for acting gigs as well on the side as well. So yeah.
Well, really, I mean, all the things we've been talking about, I still believe are related very closely to the acting profession. It's just it's a slightly weird offshoot of acting. But still, Dawes Butler and all those guys taught me that as long as you're doing a character, zany as it might be, keeping it believable is the main thing. That's different between what we call voice acting and just some guy in a pub, doing something for his mates who thinks he can do a voice, saying, I can do funny voices, but it's always that strained thing in the throat, and you think,
it's like Kermit the Frog in a way, yeah.
Yeah, but you're not.
Kermit the Frog. I got a frog in my throat here.
My name is Kermit the Frog, and I got a frog in my throat, Yeah, something like that.
I actually, when the Muppet Show was on, the original Jim Henson voice of Kermit, I used to get asked to do a lot of commercials doing that because it was so popular at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all right, welcome to the Muppet Show. Hey, Miss Piggy, what are you doing over there? Kermit the Frog and Fuzzy Bear. And it was, again, the throat thing.
That's really cool. You would have actually been a great, if Steve Whitmire, was left sooner and you were around, you would have been great, like a great replacement for him, actually.
Well, I was just happy in living in this country so far away before the internet that I was able to do every one of these iconic American characters. And let's face it, America with its giant population has always been the most famous showbiz disseminator in the world. And I was able to do all these favorites of mine in the land down under. And hardly anyone else did that. They did Australian impersonations or whatever, but they didn't try to do Fred and Barney from the Flintstones or stuff like that. So I was lucky, I just had a love of those things and suddenly was rewarded by being able to do it for a career.
It's incredible. And also, I think as well as voice acting, what I like as well is you wish that these characters could be real because you just love them so much. Yeah. And we got there with puppeteering. We got there with the Muppets. I reckon they were the closest things to human cartoons
Yes.
Because it's like you see them and they come to life, and it's like that's the reason why shows like Sesame Street got so popular, is because they felt like human cartoons.
Yeah.
They're puppetry. They feel real.
Jim Henson, I think, started doing them, the Muppets, I think, on shows like Curiosity Shop and Sesame Street, way before they had the Muppet Show. And in the early days, it was like a novelty thing, but they stood out as you say, as strongly as animated cartoons, because they were just, you suspended your disbelief and you just believed they were real.
Yeah. It's like you look at the Muppet Show back in the day, and it's like, oh my God, it's just, there was something about it which you cannot replicate today. You probably wouldn't be able to get away with most of what you did back then, because, you know, the society we have, unfortunately. But man, when you could, it just seems so funny, so believable. They're just like,
like you talk about society changing and people being, you know, more critical of, don't do that, this. But then if you do it in a character, it's going to get laughs anyway. Like those two old hecklers on the Muppet Show, Waldorf and Statler. You know, they could get away with saying really incorrect things simply because they were old, you know, tone deaf idiots. Who
well, I think it's good that we have Keith Scott on the show. Although, what happened to Mel Blanc? Something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. It's a bit of creative freedom too.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. You know,
really?
That's why he got caught signing a check in somebody else's name.
Yeah, you know, I get it. It's like I said, there was so much freedom as well. Obviously, you still have that freedom when you do character voices, but unfortunately, we live in a society where there's always two divided groups, and any of those groups could get offended at any moment. And it's not like I love it when we can all just come together and laugh about these things, because it's like, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all going to be gone eventually.
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to be like Mel Blanc,
Exactly.
smoking cigarettes into our 80s and then dropping dead.
You know, the funniest thing about him being dead is the fact that where he's buried on the tombstone is
that's all, folks.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think I've seen that. That class act.
Son of a bit, son of a gun.
Black and white footage where he said "son of a bitch."
Yes, that one.
You thought I was going to say son of a bitch, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
That was
done for one of their Christmas reels, so it was
bloopers. Yeah, I think it was one of their Christmas blooper reels. Yeah. And there was just so much. I don't know. I just feel like there was so much freedom compared to the cartoons today. Like, I just think they were so wacky, so they just didn't care. They just did whatever they did.
Well, the thing is, of course, don't forget that before TV and advertising, they were just made for pure entertainment. Whereas now there's all these demographic groups and age groups that you've got to be careful of. They were never made strictly for children. They were just made for an audience, you know.
Yeah.
It brought kids along, or whether it was just the grandparents who went to the movies back in those days. It was just a little piece of entertainment that was spice on the program, along with a newsreel and a short with Laurel and Hardy, and then the main feature film.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, I know you did an impression of Moses. That was 999. If you could do an impression of me, we'll get to 1,000.
No, I'd have to really listen to do it properly. I'd have to listen to both of your voices for a couple of weeks before I could say yes. Now it's accurate, you know. So I prefer not to jump in.
That's all right. You did Moses beautifully though. So that we'll leave it on 999.
That was
well, you've got a distinctive pitch to your voice that was easy to lock onto as a note.
Yeah, and I think that's it. What you said there, distinctive. I think because when you hear a distinctive voice, it's very easy to mimic as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's why some of the ones that I did in those days, like Bob Hawke, came very easy because they were already larger than life. Same with Trump to a degree. I mean, I like to still hone it, and I've heard so many people do Trump, for instance, and some of them are not that good, but
No, yeah.
Some of them overdo that part of it, and it almost like a kid rather.
They're not adding in the huge part.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
They just sort of sound like this, and
Yeah. But I mean, half of it really is just satire. You just make
Satire, yeah.
what they have actually said and twisting it. Like when he called himself a stable genius, I couldn't believe it. So I just said, as I have said before, I am a stable genius. Just ask any of the other horses in here.
See, I reckon I could do a I might have to have a few pints, but I reckon I can do a good Bob Hawke if I have a couple of drinks, because I would associate him with the pints easily.
Yes, I remember when he knew me and had seen my impersonation of him, because he famously gave up alcohol when he became prime minister, but when he was the leader of the ACTU, he used to be a notorious boozer. And
he was a one of a kind, easily.
Would go on television half plastered,
So I said, what an ego! One drink and he's his.
We've had so many impressions in today's episode. It's unbelievable. I mean, honestly, it's so great to have you on. It really is. I think it's one of those things where, like, as I mentioned earlier, I hope more and more young people hopefully see this episode and become inspired to become getting into the voice acting industry. Because it's like, when there's a distinctive voice, I believe if you've got a distinctive voice, you just replicate it over and over again, and then all of a sudden you've got an impression, and then you just listen to all these voices. It's like, it's possible. It's humanly possible, but you just got to listen to these distinctive voices.
Yeah, exactly. And some people do have that ability. It's a
you included, Mr. Man of 1,000 voices.
Yeah, heightened ear or just powers of observation or something. But it's usually related to something that's to do with the creative arts, so that you're born with that spark of, that other people will never get it, because what people in showbiz call the civilians, the population of who would possibly wouldn't have the sharp ear that you guys have, where they would be fooled by, say, an AI thing, for instance, whereas I think people with the ear for it can always pick if it's phony or not. Maybe the technology is going to get so good it will fool everyone, but then
that scares me so much. I'm not gonna lie. It scares me to think that, like, it's gonna get to that point. I mean, we've already seen it. If we think it's advanced at this point, give it another 6 months or a year, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's out of control. It never stops. Yeah.
Well, it seems like it's going to be out of control unless there's some legal things put in place, where a lot of the actors unions around the world are trying to get some laws so that at least there's compensation if a voice is used,
and if there's monetization from it as well, revenue. Like, if people are going to use it, it's like they should be at least earning the revenue from that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's only fair, because otherwise the technology will get better and better, and then it'll just be indiscriminate,
Exactly, yeah. And I think as well, I hope more, like, I keep saying it over and over again, young people, please, I hope you get into voice acting. I hope you become inspired from the people who are in power, and you just copy their voices, and then we've got a new generation of voice acting. It's just
I think it will. There's always a percentage of the population that's born that has that gift, because let's face it, they reckon even the power of speaking is really imitation, because you're turning your parents. It's a note beyond that, because then it goes into comedy and exaggeration and stuff. And then we get into all those technical things that get boring to talk about again.
Exactly.
Well, we'd like to thank you once again, Keith.
Guys, it's been the most enjoyable. I've got to get going because we're going to go out later on. So
we're just about to wrap up as ourselves too. But before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say or any advice you'd like to give to the viewers who are interested in voice acting?
Well, if I'm going to give advice, it'd just be try to give 110% of every performance you do. Make it as memorable as possible, and keep practicing voices, because we need a new generation of young mimics who can do every accent and every dialect and every famous person, for even if you're going to vary them slightly and turn them into semi-original characters. So it would be, the only thing I say that's negative about giving advice like this is that the main point about why I'm successful is a very boring answer. It's like I just practiced a lot and locked myself away and kept going over and over things until I got them right, you know. So a lot of it's just hit and miss, but never be satisfied. Always think you can maybe take it to a little plateau above where you're at, and that would be my advice.
That's a great advice to go with.
Great
And
advice.
I think, like you said, just keep practicing, and also just look for distinctive voices too, because there's so many of them.
And especially now, you know, with the 24/7 media that we live with these days, the fact that on YouTube and all of that, you can now have the tools to play a line back over and over again, and so that you can hear. Whereas when I started, it was on audio tapes, and you had to rewind and find where it was. Now you've got all this instant access to all these voices, and it should literally be easier to practice than ever.
Yeah.
Stuff out there now, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So much.
Well, anyways, thank you so much, Keith, for this extraordinary podcast.
This is gonna
I had to
be one
use
of the
that.
most viral ones we've done, I reckon.
Yeah, thank you so much for this extraordinary podcast with us today. It's been a very interesting chat, and also so many voices too. There's so many to go over,
including mine.
Yeah,
Yeah. I never do it with cruelty. It's always just for a bit of a giggle or just to practice.
Yes.
Exactly.
Amazing. I've never been taken to court in all the 50 years of doing this.
That's incredible. That's very. See, and again, it would just be. Wouldn't it be protected under satire?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think if they were going to try, even somebody who's got a bit of a thin skin, like the current Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, I think if he did try to take a mimic to court, it'd be like he'd never win, because they'd say, well, what about all the newspaper cartoons that you've put up with over the years? Are you going to take all of them to court too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be silly to take someone to court for satire. Look at Pauline Hanson. She did that, and look what happened to her. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, she got herself in that
situation.
Oh, yeah.
Just learn to laugh at yourself, world. Everyone, if you're listening to this, joke's a joke. Just learn to laugh at yourself. I mean, we're all going to be gone one day. It's all part of the learning experience.
Yeah, exactly right. And a lot of jokes are just jokes.
Yeah. Jokes will be jokes.
Jokes will be jokes, exactly. Well, anyways, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Keith, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate being asked, and just it's a great podcast that you're doing. So I'll look forward to seeing the final edit.
Don't worry.
Oh, you will.
You will absolutely love it.
That I go on with and cut it down a little bit, please feel free.
No worries. We always don't have a time limit, because we want to have our guests to say as much as possible.
Oh, good.
And you said a lot in an hour and a half. That is so fun. It's so fun.
So incredible. Yeah.
Thank you.
But thank you, Keith. And also thank you, Moses, for we'll do the sign off quickly. Thank you, Moses, for joining as co-host for today. And thank you to all of the viewers who have listened to today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. You can listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, etc. All pretty much most of the major platforms to listen to the show. And once again, thank you, Keith, for watching. I mean, for joining us, watching and joining for today's episode. And would you like to do the honors, Keith? Would you like to do the honors and sign off today's episode for us?
Well, it's been great being on the Joey Wiggle podcast, and all I can say is
That's not all, folks.
There's more, folks.
There's a lot more.
Exactly. Oh, thank you so much, Keith. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much once again, Keith.
No worries. See you guys.